Welcome to Everyday Cooking with Ann. It's springtime and I'm making one of our favorite cakes. Actually, my husband keeps changing which cake is his favorite, and when I made this strawberry cake for him for his birthday, that was it. It has to be strawberry cake. I kind of think this cake would be great for a little girl birthday party or something like that because it's pink. It's just totally pink and it's so girlish, but it's my husband's favorite. That's why we're making it again tonight. And so let me tell you a little bit about this cake and all the wonderful ingredients that go inside. Here are the ingredients of our cake. But first of all, I've already prepared my pans by buttering and flouring the cake pans, and they are 3 8-inch cake pans. So it's going to be a tall cake. The ingredients in this cake are really kind of varied, but they make a lot of sense to me. I'm going to be using buttermilk and heavy whipping cream. The original recipe started with just 3/4 cup of half and half. I didn't have any of that, and I think buttermilk in a cake just adds so much flavor and consistency and also rise to the cake. So that's one of the things we'll be using. We have 3½ cups of flour with half a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, and a half a teaspoon, baking powder, and a half a teaspoon of baking soda, which I added to the recipe to react with our buttermilk, okay? We're also going to be changing a little bit the recipe, and I'm doing 1 cube of butter that I've cubed up. That would be a half a cup of butter that I've chopped up a little bit, and also a half a cup of oil. I use oil because it gives a lot of moisture to cake. If you ever buy a cake mix in the store, they have you add eggs and oil, and it's very soft and fluffy, and that's what we're going for. Not a real dense cake, so it really will be very fluffy. And then, of course, I have 4 eggs and I have 2 cups of sugar, and we're going to be adding a little bit of food coloring because this cake is going to be pink, and a little bit of vanilla as well. So let's get started. And then I have also created some strawberries for the frosting with a tablespoon of sugar on it. It's making a little bit of a syrup that we'll add to the frosting liquid. But the main ingredient is fresh strawberries, and I've chopped them very fine. And that's what you need to do, and that's going to be 1 cup of fresh strawberries. To start the cake, we're going to be adding the 2 cups of sugar into our Breville mixer, and we're going to put in our cubes of butter. And we're going to start this machine, and this is going to beat for 2 minutes on about high or medium or so, and it's going to mix the sugar and the butter together for 2 minutes. And I have on my Breville a timer which will tell me when 2 minutes are up. That's one nice thing about my machine. Here we go. This has been mixing for about a minute, and I'm going to add the oil in here. That's a vegetable oil. Okay, now you want to keep this on about medium low, and we're going to add the eggs. There's 4 eggs, 1 at a time. Okay, now what we're going to do is prep our liquid ingredients, which is going to be 3/4 cup. Now I'm only going to put maybe a half a cup of buttermilk in here, and I'm going to put the rest of it as my heavy whipping cream till I have 3/4 cup. And what I'm going to have this ready to go because we're going to alternate the dry ingredients with the wet ingredients. So I'm going to take my flour and I'm going to sift it in with the salt, baking powder, and baking soda. There we go. So you're going to start with the flour and end with the flour. We're going to beat this on low. You want to just make this till it's just barely incorporated right now. It's going to be a very nice crumb of a cake. It's not being overbeaten at all. We're going to add now the teaspoon of vanilla. And a half a teaspoon of red food coloring. Now notice my jar of red food coloring, it's huge. I sent my husband to the store and said, buy a little bit of red food coloring, and this is what he came home with. This will last me a lifetime and a half. Unless I start making this cake for other people all the time. Okay, now I'm folding in the red strawberries too. That's going to be on low. Okay, that's all it needs. I'm going to take our cake mix and I'm going to divide it into my 3 8-inch pans ready to bake. This is a thick bake batter, not a runny one. So I had to spend a little bit of time evenly putting these evenly amounts in each pan and smoothing it all the way to the edge so that it will bake up nicely. I'm going to put them in the oven at 350 degrees for about 28 minutes, and then I'm going to check them. Ready to make the frosting for the strawberry cake. And it's going to be a little bit change of recipe that I did last time. I modified it a little bit. We're going to be putting a little bit of cream cheese in with it. We're going to be having butter, a lot of butter, 8 cups of powdered sugar, and our strawberries are nicely put up now, ready to go in. I'm only going to put in as many as where I want the right consistency. We have a little bit of lemon juice and vanilla and salt, and that's what makes this frosting so amazing. It's got the salt with the sweet. It's going to be so great. All this into my Breville mixer. So here's a cube of butter with another cube, which equals 1 cup. And I'm also putting in half of a package, an 8-ounce package, so about 4 ounces of cream cheese. And I'm going to start putting some of the powdered sugar in right now as well. So about 8 cups. So I'm going to start off with maybe 3. Now this has to start off kind of slow because we don't want powdered sugar going everywhere. And we want to kind of mix the powdered sugar in with the cream cheese and butter. So I'm going to put this down. And notice I did not soften the butter because I find that just the consistency of the frosting is so much better when it's not too soft. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my mixer on until it kind of mixes that. Our 3rd cup of powdered sugar. At this point I'm trying to break up the cream cheese and pulverize it with the sugar. Cream cheese and the butter. Okay, at this point also I want to add a teaspoon of vanilla, a teaspoon of lemon juice. I always keep a bottle of fresh lemon juice in my refrigerator. And a half a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to mix this up again. Now I'm going to slowly add the other 4 cups of powdered sugar. At this point I'm going to add some of this. I have a cup worth of chopped strawberries. I'm going to add a little bit at a time because I don't want to add too much. So I'm going to add about half of it right now because it could change the consistency. I'm going to add 2 more cups of powdered sugar. Okay, we're ready to frost our cakes. They're nice and cool. And this is the consistency of our frosting. It's nice and thick. You're going to want to refrigerate this cake if you can. So make some room in your fridge for it if you can, unless you're planning to eat it right away. I'm going to start off with my... I usually use a really wonderful cake stand to put this cake on, but I'm going to be taking this to an event where I need to have it on a white plate to put on another stand. And so I'm going to be putting my cake on my little white plate. And the first thing we're going to do is take my largest cake that I have, and that's turned upside down. You can see here's the bottom of the top of the cake, and it needs to go right here. And I'm going to add some frosting here. You're going to want to put a little bit less than 1/3 on each layer because you're going to have plenty of frosting for the top. But you want to have some nice frosted in between layers here. You have 8 cups of powdered sugar in here. Well, that looks like a little too much, maybe. Okay, I'm going to put this cake on top of here, upside down. Okay, it's going to be a very tall cake. We pretty much abruptly stopped the last video because the cake frosting was kind of not holding up. So we decided to refrigerate it, so harden it up a little bit, which is what we did. And then we left it in the, and once we completely covered all the parts of the cake with all of the frosting, there's quite a bit of frosting in this recipe. So that's one of the things that makes it so special. This frosting tastes amazing. It's a little different than any other frosting you've made. So we hardened things up a little bit. I redid the cake a little bit so that it would hold together better. And now it just really absolutely looks perfect. But I also left it in the refrigerator overnight because I wanted to keep it hard. So I think the best choice to make on this is to refrigerate your cake, take it out just before you're ready to serve. It'll soften up a little bit by the time you serve it, and it'll be perfect. So here we go. It's decorated to go to my event today. I have a few mint leaves around and some spread out cut strawberries. And I would like you to go look at my lime pie, my key lime pie in the next video, because that's a perfect spring dessert to serve to your family or friends.